Hello and welcome to part 10 of this epic, although it's not going to be quite 8 seasons like Game of Thrones. It's Paint On with Rob, part 10 of painting the 3D Gizmo Tank Commander. Last time it was binoculars and gloves, a glove. I've now painted the other glove. And so they ended up going a little bit paler than they were last time, if you look, because I couldn't quite get the colour to match exactly. So painting them in tandem, which is the ideal way of doing it, because I painted just a single one, means they needed to match.
You weren't particularly happy with the colour in the first place.
No, I mean, essentially the same colour. I think I just used more highlight. Or the highlight colour I was using. It's still got the same tones in there. And so today, the plan is to do the Sergeant Chevron and the Armoured Division patch. Haven't quite decided what Armoured Division is going to be just yet, and it may well end up being First Armoured Division, just because when you're painting something this big, a 1 is easier to paint than a 2 or a 3 or a 5 or a 6. Quite simply, go for the simplest route. And I had already, just as a tester, painted the chevrons on the upper sleeve just to see what it looked like. So that's what we're going to be aiming to do. So I'll just, so you can see.
Do they have stitching in them? They look like they got some sort of texture going on.
If you can see the texture, then good, because we will attempt to do that. It's really very simple. It was, and it won't take very long. So I know what I'm going to do with that. But the first thing I'm going to do is do the Armoured Division patch.
Okay.
Partly because if I do, I can see myself. You can see the angle I'm going to come at here is going to. This will just get in the way if I've already painted it. So the idea being is that if I'm holding it like this, and I've painted that, there's less risk. If you know what I mean, it's the same as painting inside out, kind of like the order you paint things in.
Yeah.
So
does it have a number in that patch at all, or is it just split into 3?
There is very little in there. You'll see when I put the first coat on that we're going to be doing effectively freehand here.
Oh, right. Okay. How are your freehand drawing tracks then? Because there's some tracks in the middle, isn't there?
At this scale, there will be a suggestion, basically, and we'll do our best. But I think the key thing here is, in the same way we've been talking about planning how you approach, the order you do things in, the same applies very much here. So the very first thing I'm going to do is share a photo of a Armoured Division patch. There you go. So that's what we're effectively going to do. It's 3 colours, quite bright primary colours, and it's on a olive khaki background or edging, and then some little bit more complex details. The key thing will be to get the proportions right and get the colours on in the right way of doing things effectively. So we can come back to that, but I'll get back to the figure.
Okay.
So the very first thing I'm going to do is
buy a decal.
Yeah, you can buy a decal. It is one of those things where, and then even applying a decal can be a pain in the proverbials. One of those things where the layering or how we go about this in the order we do things, hopefully it will end up making sense. So what I've got here is it's forest green or an olive drab or something like that. I'm adding just a little bit of black with it. That's black on its own. And what I'm going to do is just carefully take my time to paint that triangle, you don't want too much paint on your brush. You want to get that in focus. It does. If it's a little bit thin, that's great. Better to have a couple of coats thin than too much paint. But this is, I'm not going to try and do just the edge, because that patch has only the edge in this colour. So rather, because I'm going to do it in kind of layers, I'm going to paint the whole thing initially. There's actually some pretty rough bits of where there we go. Pretty rough bits on the underside there, which I can come back and line later on. So it's a raised patch. You can see there's absolutely nothing in there at all to help us paint this. It's going to be looking at something, analysing it, and fingers crossed, try to replicate it, which I think we're about to do. So I'm just carefully, if you can see, because it's raised, I'm just going and just painting that raised edge, because otherwise it will, you can see there, the raised bit is currently the colour of the jacket. You see what I mean? So
yeah,
that's just that edge there is quite tricky. Wedge your hands in.
is that so that green will be the mirror of the patch?
That will be the edge of the patch. So we're going to go in when it dries.
Mm-hmm. It's called a mirrored edge.
Yes. So the idea now is when that dries, is I'm going to paint carefully a triangle in the middle of it, just leaving a little bit of the olive on the outside. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not going to go straight in with the. The patch itself is 3 colours, and what I'm going to do is the yellow itself won't go down very well on top of this green, so I'm going to do kind of almost an undercoat of, I think I'm going to use this white grey, just so that the yellow comes out a little bit more vibrantly than trying to paint the yellow onto the green itself, which would, because of the translucent nature of paint initially, would be tricky to see. So I'm just going to paint almost a little white grey triangle in the middle. Then the plan will be to paint the whole of that triangle yellow,
right,
and then do the red and then the blue in its relative proportions.
Okay, is there any reason for that order?
Lightest colour first,
right.
Basically.
Okay.
You will struggle to get, if you did the whole thing red, you'd struggle to get, in the same way we're going to put this on, you would struggle to get the yellow to come through looking yellow, painting it over red. You'd end up with an orange effectively, because it's going to have the translucent nature of it. So yeah, that is the logic. Not done this before, so hopefully what I've worked out will hopefully behave itself. So, and with this, I'm going to thin the paint down. So I don't, this white grey is going to appear really bright. It's not as bright because it's a white grey, but it will appear bright to us, or certainly on the camera. So don't be too surprised by that.
And how's your brush holding up?
I gave it a wash just before this, and it seems all right. It's not perfect, but it should suffice for our purposes.
Okay.
He said. So yeah, now how am I going to do this? I'm going to just carefully, you can see the brush has a bit of a tip now. I'm just going to make sure I haven't got any loose hairs on the end. You want the paint to flow but not flood. That's a good one. Flow but not flood. And I would tend to paint in the center area and paint my brush outwards to, so kind of do the bit you want to get, and then carefully. My natural brush action is kind of going in this direction. Let me get it there again. It's kind of in the way I'm holding the brush is to go up, so it's easier for this edge, the rear upright. It's going to be the easiest one for me to do with the brush in this angle.
Okay.
So I've already gone a little bit too far, so I'll probably have to come back and just touch that edge. I'm balancing in thin air actually, and my elbows aren't. Now a natural way for the brush to go is along the bottom there, so I'm going to try and do that. See that? I've now wedged my forearms in. And it's already drying up quite. It's quite a humid day. It's a warm day, really. I was surprised. So carefully trying to get the paint into the pointed corners of. Now, because I can do that way and I can do that way, I'm going to have to twist the figure around slightly in order to do this edge. So, because there are natural ways in which you move your hand when you're painting effectively. You'll find, it might be different for you. So I'm not worried about the coverage of this at the moment. I'm just wanting to get the paint in place and be happy with it.
Quite like that other patch you've already done. It looks kind of almost shiny embroidery.
That one?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can see actually if you think about the angle of the light, I've got more on this edge than on that edge.
Yeah, it's nice.
So hopefully I can duplicate that again. That's more to do with using the translucency of the thin paint to do that than anything super clever. It's right. So I'm just going to I'm going to let that dry portion. I'm just going to have a sip of tea. Because what I don't want to do is start pushing around paint the way we talked earlier. Letting the paint dry before you put your next coat on is quite important here, because I could end up pushing this paint around a little bit too much, and we want this to end up looking quite smooth because it's a small patch. So this is one of those things that arguably I might come across as being quite confident in what I'm doing. So if you aren't confident and you have your piece of paper, do some little practice doing those lines on something else before you commit to the model. That kind of thing. Just get used to doing those lines near the edge. So I've kind of gone straight into it, with always a caveat that it could go horribly wrong.
You didn't warm up before you start?
Yeah, you certainly could. I can see bits here where I've gone a little bit awkward in places, but
nothing that can't be cleaned up.
No, this is the thing again, is I've got one edge I really don't like, which I'll go and tidy up. Now you could use white for that. You could use a any pale colour would do for that. Now, when you're looking close at that, I quite like the front edge of it and the bottom edge. But you can see that rear edge has got a couple of little bits that are sticking up, or don't look tidy enough. So I'm just going to go in with my base colour again and just try and tidy that edge up a little bit. I do find myself, after all these years of doing this, getting better at moving it into the camera and thinking about where the camera is.
By the third series,
Yeah, by series 3, yeah. I'm looking a bit more regularly.
Imagine what series 4 would be like.
A work of art. I don't always remember to put my elbows on, so. Right, so I'm going to go back a little bit more, one more time with hopefully better placed. Go a little bit more on the door. Now, how much of a border you give it is entirely up to you. You could take this all the way up to the edge and not even bother with the olive kind of edge. That'd be fine. I'm doing it because of that example I showed. Right, that'll do. Right, so next is going to be the yellow. Now that patch I showed had quite deep golden yellow. I start off with a primary yellow, which is this chromate yellow, which is the bottom one of those two, and I've also got a golden yellow. I'm probably going to mix a little bit of both of those, just to golden yellow is a little bit too orange really for my liking at this point. One thing I will say is that my plan is, this is going to look quite vibrant to start off with, and that's fine, because by the end of this I'm going to end up hopefully toning it down and almost weathering. That's something we've still got to do, isn't it? And quite dirt and whatever. We forgot all about that. But yeah, going to try and tone this down how I often would with. If we had a decal out of a box kind of thing, that too would look pretty vibrant. And on the uniform and the way the guy is painted, it's kind of still, it's got a bit of a slightly dirty tone overall. So it would look quite anomalous if it was too bright. So we will be toning it down, but that'll be at the end of this. So now I've got my yellow, and yellow isn't the best colour in the world for coverage, so this isn't going to be an instant one coat job. This is going to be a couple of layers to get this on, but it will at least look yellow because we're doing it over top of the white grey. Nice. And, see if I can get some better pigmented stuff out of the yellow. Get a bit of coverage on that. It's a funny one because I'm not really very familiar with how my yellows will behave because it's a colour I use so rarely. I don't really know which is a good yellow for my purposes. Do you know what I mean? It's like one of those things. I'm good with all my olives and my olive drabs and my field greys and you name it. Yellow, nah, no idea. There's obviously things like I think people talk about priming with pinks and things like that. That might work, but for a shoulder patch, don't know if I can be bothered. To be fair,
yeah.
And even now, I'm glancing across here at a nice, lovely look. That looks great. That's now looking really nice.
Yes.
Compared to this slightly anemic looking yellow. So let me just see. That actually looks quite.
Is it too thin? Is that all it is?
Second?
Is it too thin? Is that all the problem is?
Yeah, it's also a little bit. I mean, you can see it's this is close. This has got a little bit more of a, I don't know, a bit of a sunbursty kind of colour to it, whereas the other's a bit slightly on the washed out white end of the yellow. Let's see how. And my example, I'll put it back up again in a bit. Is quite quite a deep. Oh yes, that's nice. So yeah, and it's got a nice coverage as well, which I guess you're going to be painting Eldar.
Yeah. Which corner's the yellow?
Hang on a sec.
Right.
Which corner? Top corner is at the top.
Right. But you're covering the whole thing.
Yeah, because the other colours will go on top of this.
Yeah, yeah.
Rather than try and do 3 separate sections and do a nice line between them, it's going to be. I think it's going to be easier to paint the subsequent bits on top of this. So again. A bit better coverage, quicker coverage. And this is the point where I'm seeing messages from the local WhatsApp group saying Wi-Fi is going down. So hopefully I'm on a different provider, so I'm still here and I can still see that we're recording. So just a warning.
Yep.
We've had everything recently. We had a burst water main up the road and low water pressure, and somebody was saying that. And then it went again a couple of days later, same place. Which when it goes, if I go for a run and I come back hot and want a shower and I can't get a shower because the water's gone. Right, okay.
That's very bright, isn't it?
It is currently very bright, yes, that's all good. But it's got the border of the olive now. Just going to plonk this back up again. Come on, there you go. So, Yes, so we're now going to go and do the red corner. Now, what you'll notice is how to do this is to look at the construction of it. On each edge, the change in colour comes halfway, and the angle of the change of colour is at 90 degrees to the edge it's on, if you look. So in terms of breaking it down into construction, that's what we've got to try and do. So I'm going to go for the red. Currently I've got a very bright red here. I'm just going to add a bit of that green to it, just to desaturate it slightly, because it's very saturated. It's still going to be red, but that very small amount of green in it has just taken the edge off it a bit. Just because I didn't want it to be quite, it is going to be quite bright. But now, this is where it's going to get tricky. So, don't put I think it's arguable to be thinner paint here. So, where we gone? There you go. So it's about halfway along here at right angles. I'm just going to do one simple little line. You can see that's a right angle to that edge. It could probably be a little bit further up. And then the same has to happen from the bottom edge. But halfway along that bottom edge.
Yeah.
So that's the two edges of it, and I've got to fill in.
Which breath?
This portion there. Okay. So yeah, excuse the lack of speaking. That is just pure concentration. So that's moving in the right direction. It's not super neat. It's not super perfectly covered, but it's looking all
right colour in the right place.
Yeah. So just looking at it, thinking, how is it? I just need to try and get that a little bit sharper. But the blue will jut up against this side.
Yeah, and you've also got that black over the top of it, haven't you?
Yeah.
And the lightning bolt. Putting that off.
Yeah, and you look as well. That lightning bolt the red lightning bolt is only sitting on the red and blue. I mean, the yellow and blue. There's none of that on the red itself. So,
have you got any tips for doing freehand?
Thin paint. Analysing the order in which things are constructed, I would say. Thin paint is the key thing. You could, I think we've mentioned this before, for things like lining, you could add a flow retarder to the paint so that you can wash it off if it goes in the wrong place. So again, I've got the blue here. The blue red. The red was a deep red from AK. The blue is intense blue from Model Colour. They just happen to be blues I have. I do have other blues I'll be using later on, but they're not relevant because I wanted this kind of slightly brighter, more more of a primary blue than anything with other tones in it that I've used. So I've added just a little bit of the green to it again to desaturate it slightly, so it's not quite so intense. The final thing I'll do will hopefully do that little bit of. I'm just actually don't like that at all. I'm just going to pour out a bit more because it's quite thin again, too thin for what I want. I do like that yellow. I'm pleased I made that yellow change. I don't think I've got a blue from Games Workshop knocking around. Because there is a nice coverage from that Games Workshop stuff. For those the layer colours. Some of them are quite good. Oh, that's why. That's what I want. So I've just taken the lid off. And I've got some cloggy pigment, which will give better. Yeah, I'd rather start with thicker pigment than. I think what was happening was just the binder was coming out on stuff like this, which I've used so rarely. Again, being military painters as such, tend to paint a lot of drab colours, and you don't tend to use the primary stuff very often, which is why A, I don't have many of them, and B, they're quite the pigment and everything is really hard to mix, because this is probably 10 to 15 years old, I would estimate, without having been opened in that time, or rarely opened in that time. So now I've got over all that waffle and avoiding the issue, I'm going to have to paint the blue. So again, coming down from halfway on that edge. This is when I wish there was a decal.
Would you have used the decal and then painted over it, or for reference, or not?
When I've used the decal on a 35th scale. There's a little bug. Yeah, I've used a 35th scale decal on an alpine figure in the past.
Right.
And what I tend to do with those, because they are genuinely bright, what I end up doing, and what I'll end up doing here, is doing a glaze of khaki over top, just to tone down the vibrancy, and it almost makes it it fits in better with the overall tone. It's almost like a layer of dust over it. Or maybe arguably, what would be a good comparison? It's almost like doing that desaturation that Band of Brothers and Private Ryan did, to make it look a little bit less vibrant.
Not part of the weathering and fading of material.
Yeah, it's a fading effect. It's because if you think that the material is originally started off as a yarn colour, it's all going to go back to that when it gets washed or rained on or whatever it might be. Look at that. That's the 3 bits, isn't it, roughly? With the right angles in there, meeting in the middle.
I know on some patches you'll get a like a thread sticking out under the marrow or something like that. You know, would you worry about that, because it's not going to be an absolutely perfect line, is it? It's because it's going to be embroidered. But,
Yeah, I know if
much for detail, do you think?
I think it's a. I wouldn't worry too much about perfection on something like this. Yeah, when you see how, I mean, for the purposes of demonstration here, I'm not going to go too bonkers on trying to get an exact perfect line.
Okay.
You know, partially because we're going to end up with those tank track bits on top, but don't turn it around if need be to paint those edges and straight lines to make them sharper if need be. Go back to colours you've already painted in order to. I'm going to go back to the red now. Hopefully I don't need to go back to the yellow. Yellow is done because it's the lightest colour, and I would struggle to get that yellow to do anything on top of the blue or the red. Basically, and you could find that out yourself. It's just one of those, get the lightest colour down first.
Yeah.
Which would pretty much be the same if you were doing a camouflage uniform. That too would be, other than looking, and even if you look at a camouflage uniform, they usually do start off even in the printing process with the lightest colour first and then put darker colours on top, for the very reason that you won't get you won't be able to print that light colour over top of a dark colour very easily. And the same will apply with a paint that we're doing here. Right, so when I look at that bottom edge of the blue about there, you can still see some yellow in because, or grey, because the light, I went down too far with the, with the grey base coat, or like white grey base coat. So I'm just gonna paint in olive again down there,
like a rogue stitch.
Yeah. Now, with something like this, with any one of these kind of things, you can go to the nth degree. So what I'm just going to quickly do here is I've got some of that black still, and I'm going to add it to my olive thing, and I'm just going to, so I've got dark black olive colour, and I'm just going to paint a shadow line effectively underneath that bit that still had some black that got removed. So because this is a patch, you see, so it's got the olive line, and I've painted that underneath the olive line. I'm not going to do it on the upper bit because the light's catching there, so that's just accentuating that the fact that it's a three-dimensional object. And now I'm decide what's the best thing to do, whether I want to go and do a little bit more.
Would you let that dry? We've got 10 minutes before we have a break, but would you let that dry and then move on, or would you start the other one? Or what was?
Or the other patch, or the. I'm going to just try and do a little bit of tidying up. Yeah, it's one of those things you look at and you go, oh, I don't quite like. I think I might need a bit more of that olive colour, just to sharpen up the upper edge against the yellow. Am I able to? Hang on a sec. Let's do a super critical zoom. You can see when I come in like that, there are bits on the olive and stuff. The yellow went over top of the olive on the top edge. I'm just going to do a little bit of tidying up of that. So this is me being me. So it's going to go. So
if you zoom into any patch that's embroidered, it's not going to be a perfect line.
No, it's not. But and this won't make it perfect. It will just I think I'd call it the yellow has bled slightly onto the olive. So although the line won't be perfect, I kind of did it on the bottom edge. So this is just kind of going. Same process with anything really. You kind of paint. You paint a bit and then you tidy it up and then you rejiggle the edges slightly. So yeah, I'm a bit happy with that now. There you go. So that's that bit done. So we now have to try. We've got the tank track bit. I'm now looking at it going, good grief. And we're going to do the black. I've got some black on here. Let me just move that down slightly there. So I am just going to really make this thin. Okay. The idea is that for all of this black freehand detail, I don't want much paint on my brush. I'm just going to try and put some markers in, as it were, some bits that give me an idea of where I might want to add a bit of detail. Now, what we're going to try and do, of course, is let me just think about this. So here you go. We're going to try and do a tank track about 2 mil long, about a 1 mil height. So we're not going to get the detail that the original thing had in it. So first of all, get that out of your head that anyone would want to do that.
Okay.
We're just going to try and, if somebody glances at this, they're going to say, oh, that's the first armoured patch. And that's all we're going to try and do. Now, I don't want too much paint. I've got to be very careful not to have too much paint on my brush, because the last thing I want to happen is to have to go and repaint any of those 3 portions again. Look at my reference, and the top part of the track kind of sits, doesn't quite go to, but it's at the level of halfway up where the yellow and red and the blue and yellow change. So I'm going to try and do just a little gentle line at around about that level in there. Like I said, I'm not worried about it being super bright. And it just goes a little bit way down into the, no, not bright, I mean, I don't want it to be solid black just yet, because I just want to get it in the right place. I just want to get rid of that rogue hairy thing there. And my hands are wedged in.
Right.
My forearms are wedged in. I'm going to do a very little.
So some of the patches, there seem to be an outline, don't they, of the tracks, and some of them are filled in black tracks. So
we're going to do whatever's easiest.
A decal would be easiest.
Yeah. So I've painted it.
Do you like doing these really fine details? I know a lot of people enjoy doing patterns on dresses and
They do.
patterns on cloaks and things like that.
No, I don't mind them when I've done them. I've often, historically, if I've painted or if I've been doing something like I have done a couple of things like Space Marine Black Templars with their crosses, and ended up painting the cross rather than using a decal because I kind of like that painted look, and so carefully analysing and painting those forms.
I think if you've got 50 Space Marines to do there, you might change your mind.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Or at least even maybe putting a decal on and then adding to the decal, making it a bit more flamboyant or whatever it would be. But yeah, definitely, I am not a 50 Space Marine person, quite simply. It's not my bag. So no, so I've got my top line and my bottom line, and just doing those connectors. So I've basically made a bit of an oblong shape with a track.
Yeah.
There you go. That's it. I'm not going to go and try and do the wheels on that, but I am going to now try and do that. The cannon, isn't it? Basically, it's the barrel which kind of goes up at an angle in the middle.
Oh, is it? What? Oh, isn't that where the lightning bolt is?
Yeah, well, lightning bolt. Yeah, so it's a cross of a lightning bolt and a black thing in the middle of a track, and that black thing in the middle of a track I'm interpreting as a barrel.
Oh, okay, all right.
Or a cannon. It might not be, because that's definitely the wheels, but they kind of start.
Answers in the comments.
Yeah.
We'll get letters,
I'm sure there's a great article about the origin of this somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the good thing is that we're not trying to do a tank destroyer with a Black Panther logo on it or a patch. Or maybe that might be easier, who knows? So come on, dry. Gone on the right place, but it's just not very noticeable just yet. So it's just very carefully painting that bit in the same place. So you kind of still want, well, if you can, you still want the bit of yellow showing through.
Yeah.
Underneath. I think that's the key thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm now just going to try and do, like I say, a 1 is much easier than any other thing. So I'm now going to try and do a 1. So I'm turning it around this way so that I can do my preferred direction of painting for the 1 in top. And now contemplating on whether I can turn it into a proper Roman numeral version or just to keep it simple.
Keep it simple. If you want to make it a number 2, just double it up. That brush is doing pretty well. It's got a hell of a point on it. I was getting a bit concerned about it, but it seems to be holding up where it's supposed to be.
Look at that. That's
Number
a 1.
Yeah, it's
not quite in the right place, a bit too far to the back, but I might just have to live with that.
I bet you don't. I bet you change it.
And then finally, I'm going to try and do that lightning bolt.
Okay, and then we'll go for a break.
Yeah, and the second bit isn't going to be as long. So, no. The lightning bolt will be less of a lightning bolt, more of a red line, I think, somehow. But hopefully...
It's difficult to see it on
the black.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of them things where it's got to start there. Oh, sorry. There it is, but it's going to take... a bit more of a suggestion of a lightning bolt than an actual lightning bolt. And in many ways, it means that the black underneath isn't so critical because you can't really see it. It's more of a suggestion. So I might call that, I might end up putting another layer of red on that, but I think overall, that is the Armoured Division patch done to the best I can do.
You
right
gonna
now.
highlight it at all? Or?
No. Like I say, I mean, I've done that shadow underneath. If you wanted to highlight it, I mean, it's taken us nearly 50 minutes to get here.
Yeah.
So you things you could do are you could have used a highlight color on the top part of the olive edging before doing all the yellows and greens, or yellow, blue, and red. But yeah, it's not something. And then you could have maybe done, or you could have done it dark and then a sort of a lighter olive, just to give a sort of like a lining effect, that kind of stuff. But no, I think for the sake of this guy, you think, he's looking around him now. I'm not going to go too mad on that.
Okay.
And it depends, when you look at that kind of, like you say, that kind of almost stitching effect on the chevrons. If you look on these armoured patches, there are elements of that you could try and do something similar. But I think just keeping it, for the complexity of the stuff in the middle, keeping it simple is probably the better idea.
Okay.
And in that waffle time, I think the red is probably dried enough to me to do one last little.
Well, I'll pause it here and then we'll have a break.
Yeah, sure.
Back in a bit.
Okay, doke. Cheers, folks. Hello again. Welcome back after a little break, which you will be unaware of because this will probably be seamlessly edited, or edited anyway. Now, what I have just noticed is I didn't cut my fingernails enough, because all that careful painting I did of that, I've taken off some of the paint there, so I will have to go and neaten that up later on. But that's
That looks like he's got like a couple of holes in his elbow.
Yeah, it might work to our advantage in the long term, because next time I'll be doing a little bit of weathering. Right, so I'm not. I'm going to be doing I think I'm done with most of this, but I will do something during the course of painting the chevron. Now, we're going to just do keeping it on that axis, so where the stitching would always be parallel to the vertical, or parallel to the apex. And I'm just going to go and paint little suggestive downward lines. They don't have to be perfectly equidistant, just enough to imply there is some braiding or some stitching in there. And it's really as simple as that.
I think that's very effective.
And with that same colour, just on the top edge, we can give it a little bit of a highlight as well. So I've got my kind of suggested stitching and a little bit of a catch light at the top. And we could do, I can probably take a little bit more paint off so that I'm not, and then I'm going to do the same on this other side. No, because it's on a darker base. You can just see there's some very faint lines in there. Just enough to give the indication of, like I say, some hints of that stitching. I'm just going to tidy up this front edge, especially that one there.
Those rank patches are usually quite shiny, aren't they? Well, ones I've seen recently are using gold or silver thread, but I don't know if they're World War II ones were, and whether they would still show through as very shiny.
Yeah, I don't think these would have been shiny. I think they, I mean, like I say, the khaki thread would have some metallic look to it, but I don't think they'd want it to be particularly shiny in the field anyway.
No, maybe it's more of a modern thing.
And it depends on the uniform that's being worn on, I guess.
Of course, yeah.
As well, so they'd be sort of subdued. It's in the same way that Americans in Vietnam start using a subdued version of their divisional patches because they became too much of a target.
Yeah.
Eventually, so. But that's it. That's all I'm going to do to that. Is that's all it was. It's as simple as that.
That looks really good.
It's quite a nice little way of doing it. But what I'm also going to do while I'm here is I'm going to take some of this khaki and I'm going to thin it. And I'm going to thin it some more. And when I think it's thin enough, I'm going to thin it some more. And to the point where it's very much dirty water. That's all I want, because I'm going to very, very carefully do a glaze of khaki, dirty water over top of my patch. And let that dry, and maybe do 2 or 3 more like that until I mean, I might not even be able to see much of it, but it will just take the edge off any vibe. If you remember, I added a bit of green to my blue and red just to desaturate them slightly, so they're already a bit desaturated. But this again will just take the edge off. So if you feel you've gone too bright with these things, you can do this to just tone it down slightly, but I would wait for each time you do it to for that you can still have a bit of a shine in there, so it's still wet. If I'm doing this, I would let it dry between each glaze or fill. Depending on how you want to think about it, it's not a wash, because I'm not wanting it to flow into anywhere. It's a glaze. It's a, if you're of the old Miguel Jimenez school of thought, it's a filter.
Yeah.
So you're just using a khaki coloured filter.
Do you use that on everything to give it the same?
Yeah, you could use it. Yeah, you
colour
could.
range.
On a lot of things, I wouldn't do it on the green here. I tend, for something like this, I like I say, I've done this on a archer's uniform patch and 1/35 scale, because they don't. If you painted something in these tones and you stick on a patch or a decal, it can look so in your face that you want to tone it down. Indeed, and a completely unrelated subject, but this is a Krieg guy, and that's a decal which got itself a couple of layers of khaki over top, just because it was bright white. So just to tone it down, and the same with that, I added a bit more in the bottom edge of it. So it just takes that vibrancy that a decal or a more of a primary colour, it just takes that off if that's something you don't want. So you can see already that's
it looks grubby.
It's a little bit grubbier. It's not quite so in your face. I'm not going to do any more than that. So it's that kind of thing. It's that kind of effect you can do. I could probably do. I don't think I will, but I could do the same on the chevrons, but they haven't quite got the same vibrancy. I think the biggest problem with the chevrons is they stick out so much. Yeah, you can see there that they stick out quite a lot. And that, to a degree,
easier for painting. A
little bit OTT, but there you go. And that's just the way it is. So, in many ways, I think that actually will. That's probably all I can do tonight, without starting on something a bit bigger and major, which I hadn't really planned for. So
okay. Well, I know that we've kind of talked about filters and grubbing it up and muddying it up, and I know you've used that fingernail technique on the elbow.
Yeah.
Without actually going into doing it, perhaps we can prep for next time, for when we start doing the weathering, if that was the next stage that you were considering.
Yeah. So next time, because we've done pretty much all the major components now, haven't we?
Well, apart from the belt.
Yeah, I was just looking at that earlier. That's going to be that'd be quite straightforward and quick, and it is a belt, I think. So that's just going to be more khakis.
Is there something you could do in this episode?
I could certainly put a base on it and just see what it looks like, because it is in essence a khaki colour. I've got the canvas tone, and I've got a bit of black here, so I'm going to add a bit of the black.
I did look into it, and I couldn't find anything that looked like that design.
No, I agree. There is nothing like that I've seen. If there's one thing I do know, I've got a lot of books on the subject of US Army, etc., and I don't recognise it at all. So maybe we can chat to Mr. Gizmo sometime.
Yes, David, if you're watching, what is it?
So I'm just putting it on some of that canvas tone here, just to put some paint in it. But I will endeavour to add some selective mud or some selective dirt and grime to our chap next time. And I think next time as well, I'm probably going to try, if I can be organised enough, to try and do I think we mentioned it, a strap for his binoculars around his neck.
Okay.
If I can be organised enough to have materials ready to go, because watching people mix milliput can be quite boring, but if I've got everything ready, it's not me doing a lot of fanning around and demonstrating how you can do something like that, because the guy would, if he was, if he would want to have his binoculars where they're not going to fall into the tank turret. If he drops them, they're going to hang on his neck. So that would be a nice little thing to do. And that, we don't need to do a lot to that belt just to show that, I don't know exactly what the belt is, but that's already helped a lot just by putting those colours in, basically, or just putting the base.
So the belt would have been a khaki colour.
Yeah, the thing is with US belts and webbing equipment, they could vary a lot in colour.
Yeah.
A heck of a lot in colour, because some of them are made in America, some of them are made in British factories, so they ended up with British colour or British materials. So you could have a lot of variation, basically.
Is that an undershirt, maybe?
But it's sitting over top of the green, I've interpreted as these HBT overalls underneath, but I don't know. But no, there is, if you can just about see underneath the cable, there is a buckle under there, I believe. So that's why I think it's a belt. But it doesn't need a lot. Well, we could, let me just see. If you look at a lot of US belts, the webbing, they have little, they often have the eyelets in them, which I think there's a couple of eyelets at the back here somewhere. Yeah, there's one eyelet in the middle, which is what makes it partially confusing.
Right.
It's almost like these are, if you look at an M1910 cartridge belt for an infantryman, they have this wider portion that's got the cartridges built into it. So the belt, the cartridge pouches aren't added to the belt, they are part of the belt, but they are a wide, thicker portion of the belt. And so that's almost like this is intending, could have been from another figure that had a M1910 cartridge belt, but I don't know. But anyway, the webbing itself often has horizontal lines with
thick stitching, thick material.
It's a double stitched kind of thing, so it's not impossible to try and do something which I can easily paint over this. It's just purely experimental, and arguably, as we come to the end of the session, also known as padding. So I'm just going to try and do some horizontal lines to replicate that kind of suggestion of that stitching.
If that's indeed what it is.
If indeed what it is.
If you do know, let us know.
Answers by pigeon.
If you comment on it on the YouTube video, perhaps we'll get to it. Who knows?
Anyway, so that's not really, didn't work very well. But yeah, so the intention will be to use various mud colours and dirty colours. So I would be using, I haven't got them here, but there'll be a black brown, there'll be a mud brown, there'll be probably even something like the canvas tone, or something like decomposed fresh or light earth, colours like that, to do dirt, grime, oil, mud, all sorts of things that might have gotten into our guy.
Are you going to do any tears?
No.
Or repairs?
No, that's unless I try and do something with these fingernail marks.
I think you should. I think you should highlight them now.
Yeah, because I couldn't easily paint that kind of thing myself. So
it looks like a cigarette burn, you know?
Yeah, it could have, or it could have been he leant on a shell casing that was hot when it came.
Yeah, looks like it. Mm.
But we're nearly there.
Yes, sir.
We're
We
definitely
are.
nearly there. Come a long way.
Have you named him yet?
No.
Okay.
Oh, did I? No.
No. Okay.
No. Somebody said he looked like somebody, and now I can't remember who it was. He looked like. His nose actually looks like the guy from Fury, who's also the Punisher. I can't remember his name.
The chap who's in Walking Dead.
Yes.
Ah, okay, yeah. I'm with you. Yes.
Yeah, he has a little bit of a look like him about it.
Maybe. Yeah. Wonderful. So, are you happy so far? Are you anything you would go back and change if you could?
I would have his hands separate so I can get to the holster and bits a bit easier, because there's bits in there that I haven't, I think the zip, I haven't even done that little round zip thing.
Right.
But it's not needed. So far, I'm still happiest with the face. I'm really quite pleased with the way the face came out on a face that didn't have a lot going for it to start off with. And having done both gloves, I'm a lot happier with the gloves now.
Okay.
A lot of little bits. Every little bit has its charm, I think, and things that became appealing. And I think I find out on most miniatures I do is that there are moments when you're going, oh, I don't know if I like this, and then you look back and you go, yeah, it's all come crashing in.
And along as weathering, are you going to talk? So you're going to talk about perhaps doing the binocular strap, but also you're going to talk about mounting it on something.
Yeah, I need to work out what to do about that, and or maybe even offer option or show ways you could do it, because I've got some. I probably won't fix him on a base.
No.
But I've got various bases I could demonstrate how he might look.
Yeah, that'd be good. And why you would choose what you would chose.
Yeah, and there's things now when I'm thinking about it, I can't remember if he's still just stuck on a bit of blue tack or whether there was ever a bit of wire underneath. Because one thing I wouldn't want to do now, given the damage I've done with my fingernails, is try and drill a hole underneath him. But he's got some. I've seen, it's an interesting one. I've seen people painting heads and posting the heads, that 35th scale heads, and you're like, oh, that's impressive. And then you realise it's still attached to the resin.
Yes. And
you're going, you've got to get that off the resin and onto a figure. How are you going to do that without knackering it? Because if it's one thing, when you guys ever see my figures, they're all ready to go on the base with wire drilled and even the base done prior to me even priming it, because that bit of getting it onto the base and whatever is the bit I'm usually likely to damage the figure. So I try and do as much as I can. Even if I'm going to paint the head separately, I want to know the head is going to slot in with minimal touching onto the figure, so that there is less likelihood of me damaging it, basically.
Yes, absolutely.
That's a good tip. I do like my organisation in that sense, which is we haven't really had that issue here because the guy's in it's a one-piece casting. So
yeah. Great.
It has its benefits.
So are you have you got some references for weathering and things like that already? I know that you were talking about copying that black and white photograph you had.
I haven't really thought a lot about it, but I would put some things I've done to date on other figures and using the logic. I mean, I think there's a logic element to weathering, but yeah, certainly that guy photograph, I'll try to incorporate elements of that.
Okay. So when you mean logic, do you mean like elbows and ways are going to be wiping oil and...
Yeah, it's a figure I did, and I was thinking, right, well, he's got a pocket there. He's going to have dirty hands, and his hand's going to go in the pocket. So that pocket's going to get dirty around the edges because his dirty hands have gone in his pocket, or he might have wiped his hand if you've got dirty hands, where do you wipe it on your jacket, kind of thing. So it's that kind of. It's not going to be on his shoulder. It's going to be on his chest, because that's where you're more likely going to try and clean your. Or if you've got wet hands, whatever it might be, you don't tend to go and rub your shoulder when you're drying your hands or getting dirt off your hands. You might rub it on the front of your jacket. That kind of logic, placing yourself in that plate location. And you could look at any figure, you could look at any tanker. It doesn't have to be a World War II tanker, and think, where's that guy got dirty doing stuff? So yeah, that's the logic. Kind of just thinking. The dirt on his back is going to be different to the dirt on his front, basically. So, yeah, no hard and fast rules.
Yeah, right. Well, I look forward to next week. Thank you, Rob.
Yeah, no worries. Cheers, everyone.